Okay, hello there guys, welcome back to another C Sharp tutorial. In the last two tutorials we spoke about for loop. The first one was about the syntax of the for, and the second was more like a training for using it. Today we will have more training, so we are gonna proceed. Now, uh, our first problem that we are gonna try to solve is, well, you you might be asked to figure out if a number is a prime or not. Okay, so as we said in the previous example, in the previous set of examples, you need to identify the patterns that could help you uh, identify the pattern that's being repeated. So how do you know a number is a prime or not? Basically, if you have, let's say, 7, okay, how do you know it's a prime? Well, basically, you get a 7 and you find, you divide it by 6 and see the result, okay? See if the modulus equal to 0 or not. You get 7, you divide it by 5 and check if the modulus is 0 or not. You get 7 and you divide it by 4 and you check the modulus if it's divisible by 0 or the modulus is 0 or not, and you take 3, okay, and you take 2 and so on. Now, in any one of the cases of these division cases, if the modulus is 0, this means that 7 is not a prime number. Okay? So let's have a look at how such a thing could be done. Okay. We can do it like this. Sum equals 0. I will use the sum analogy from previous examples because it would be easier to do it this way. Okay, int NMBR equals, let's say, 7 here. Now, the for loop starts from int I equals not from 1 but from 2, because any number modulus 1 will have a modulus of 0, so we'll get some kind of wrong result. Anyway, so or let us start from 1. Okay, I is more than or equal to NMBR I plus a plus. Okay, so now we will just put this check over here. So now if NMBR, okay, modulus I equals 0, you would say sum plus a plus. So here we are counting the number of occurrences where if your number is divided by I result in a modulus of 0. Now, if the number is a prime number, so if sum equals 0, that means the total number of this occurring is 2. System console write line prime, else system console write line not prime, system console read line. Okay, number equal, I'm gonna change this to be int.parse system console read line. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Now this sum will be calculating the number of occurrences that your given value is divisible by I or not. Okay, and the for loop will check all the possible combinations. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's give it a try with 3, and it says 3 prime. Let's give it a try with 4, It's not a prime. Let's give it a try with 5. It's a prime. Let's give it a try with 6. It's not a prime. If we try 7, it's a prime. Okay. If we try 8, it's not a prime. If we try 9, not prime. Okay, that's okay. And if we try 10, not prime. 11 should be prime. Okay, and so on. Okay, so this is one technique to do it. You could also, uh, you know, just make it like this. Sum equal 1. Instead of increasing sum, you just, make it something like that. However, the for loop should start from 2 and ends with number -1 as the last value. Okay, the difference between these two techniques is that here, sum is more of a flag. Okay, so you might wonder, what does that mean? Well, consider sum here is a red light. So I'm gonna change this into FLG, FLG, FLG. And the value is 0. When you put 0 inside a flag here, it means that the red flag is off. This is what it means. Now, when we are checking the values or the range of values uh, between 2 and up to the number you have, and dividing, if any one of these values will result in a modulus other than 0, this means that this is not a prime number. So we ask our red flag light to turn on so that it will tell us later on that this is not a prime number. Okay, so this is a little bit different from the case where we were summing over there. Now here we will check based on our red flag. So if our red flag, for example, or prime flag in this case, is equal to 1, sorry, doesn't equal to 0. Okay, if it doesn't equal to 0, this is a prime number, otherwise it's not prime. So almost the same thing. Okay, but it should have, oops, I'm very sorry. Yeah, if it's equal to 0, it's a prime. I'm sorry. What's wrong here with me? Sorry, my mistake. Anyway, so if FLG is 0, it means it's a prime number. We didn't go through this part, okay, which means there is no occurrence for a division resulting in a modulus of 0. Okay, so 5, 7, sorry, okay, and so on. So now we have just had a look at the way we could find the primes. Okay, now we will get another example. Okay, but this time I won't speak about primes or summations. I will speak about something a little bit different. Okay, so we won't talk about this. We will talk about a little bit about visuals. So here let's assume for some reason you want to display this on the screen. Star followed by 2 stars followed by 3 stars followed by 4 stars. Now, well, in order to do something like this, what you need to do is basically a way to display n stars. So if you want to display 3 stars, you could say system console right line 3 stars. However, what if you need to display 10 stars? You might think, okay, I could write 10 stars between the double quotes. What if you want to display 20 stars? What if you want to display 50 stars? It's not practical to type the number of stars into the program itself. Another better way is to do this. Or int I equals 0, I is more than, let's say, n, I plus plus, oops, sorry, n equal to I plus plus, system, console write, star. Okay, so, and finally, system, console write line, and this will cause the cursor to go into another line. So if we run this one, so far we just printed number of stars on the same line, no problem. However, this is not what we want. We need a single star first, 2 stars later on, 3 stars later on, 4 stars, and so on. Well, basically this part of code will display what? One line of stars. What you could do is simply put another loop for j equals 1 and j smaller than, for example, 10. J++. This means we want to generate 10 lines. As we have already said, that this part of code will work on what? Will work on one line. So here I'm gonna remove n, and this is gonna be j. Okay, let's run this. Check this out. Okay, so we have got some kind of a triangle over here, which is what we are required to do in the first place. Okay, so here j will be used to indicate the number of rows. Okay, and I will be used to generate a full row. Okay, so you could read this code as follows. Repeat the following generation process for 10 lines. Generate a complete line. This is what it means. Okay, now this is kind of okay and easy way to do it. Now what if you want to reverse the order? For example, you want to display something like this. Okay, and then let's say something like this and something like this and so on. Well, obviously you could have a look at the size over here. Okay, this is a little bit large, right? So if you look at this one, what is controlling the number of stars that appear on the screen? Well, basically it's this for loop, and this for loop has j as the limiting factor. Okay, so one way to do this is to, well, just between these two brackets we could say, for example, what's the maximum value of j? Well, based on this loop, the maximum value of j is 9, right? Because this is the maximum that we could ever have. So we will add 10 and subtract j from that. And now we will run this. So what do you get? You get the reverse effect. Okay? Why? Because this part, when j is 1, 10 minus 1 will result in 9. When j is 2, you will have 10 minus 2 equal 8. When j is 3, you will have 10 minus 3 equals 7. Okay? Well, this is one way to do such a print operation. If you are confused with that, you could do the simplest thing ever and start with 10 and reverse, this one like that. Okay? This way, it will be a little bit easier for you to understand. It won't be that complicated. And oops, and I did something horrible. Basically, I need to decrease the counter. And now it's working. Okay, so as you can see, now it's working. Okay, so far this is easy and straightforward, right? No problem. Now, what if we want to display the triangle in reverse order? In other words, we want to display a bunch of spaces and a single star. Okay, something like that. Okay, and so on. Now, in order to display these stars, you need to remember something. If you have one star over here, how many spaces do you have? Let's say we have 9 spaces. If we have 2 stars, how many spaces do you have here? You have 8 spaces. If you have 3 stars, you have 7 spaces. If you have 4 stars, you have 6 spaces. So it's like a reversed relationship. Now, as you might have seen that this part generates n stars. Same technique, you could just copy this part. We will use this part to display what? To display spaces only. Okay? And make that work on what? Um, well, here if j equal 1, we have 9 spaces. If j equal 2, you will have what? 8 spaces. This is what it means, and so on. So this part will handle the spaces, and this part will handle the stars. Okay, and this condition will means that the number of spaces is complementary to the number of stars, so that the total will be equal to 10. Okay, now let us try this out and see if it works. And when we run that, we see that it is working. So far so good, right? Okay, so now that said, let us try to, well, another example. Instead of displaying this one, let us try to do what? To make it look like this. Okay, now the simplest way to think about this one is what? Here you are displaying how many stars? 1, right? In the original code you are displaying 2 stars, so you added 1 to it. In the next step you are adding 3 stars, and you added 2 stars to them. You added what? 4 stars, and you added what? 3 stars on the other side. So it's like you are almost adding double the number of stars. Okay, so what you could do is simply, after we figured out this relationship, you could simply multiply this by 2. Okay, and let us try and see if such a thing works. So we will run that. Check this out. Okay, so we have got this one. Now the only thing we have is that we are starting with 2 stars, so maybe we could just you know, just subtract 1 to avoid this issue. There we go. As you can see, now we have just created, you know, a pyramid, or triangle, whatever. Okay, now this is all nice and good. Let us work more on that, try to improve it, and we will add what? We'll add these. Make this shape this time. Now, you might be asking why I am trying to do these shapes. They are not useful. They are not useful, I agree, but the only benefit you are going to get from this work is you understand how you could control the for loop to do lots of things. There is no single rule in programming to address problem, but the more practice you have, the better you get. So this is the idea of this tutorial, just to practice a little bit with the for loop and see how you could address, or address this meaningless problem and try to solve it with false. Okay, so yeah. Now, if we think about this for a second, what happens in this part? Well, in this part, what's happening is we are printing the same previous pattern but in reverse order, right? So this part is responsible. Sorry, these two parts are responsible for what? For printing this, right? So we could do it like this. We could just copy this code here, paste it, and this is going to be what? It's going to be 10. This is going to be greater than 1 and j minus minus. Okay, so this part will move forward, make the shape wider, and this part will make the shape thinner. Okay, so if we run this code, you get what you are asking for. Almost, there's some errors over here, but anyway. It's greater than or equal to 1. Let's have a look, and now it's solved. Okay, so it's very easy. It just depends on how you think about the problem. Okay, now, yeah. Now, so what you have seen right now, we were doing lots of nesting here. We have our original for loop, okay, and the level that this for loop is working on is the whole line. Okay, so it's working on this full line or this full line, right? Or this full line or this full line and so on. And we have what? We have other for loops that works inside a single line only. Okay, so this part that I have marked is being worked on by this for loop. Okay, also this part, sorry, also this part, also this part, also this part. Okay, um, the stars part is being worked on by this part, as you can see. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, if you have a bigger problem, okay, try to split it out into smaller ones. So what we did here, we split the triangle rendering problem first into what? Into line rendering here. Okay, we used this for loop to render what? A single line. We used this for loop to render what? The spaces. Both of them would solve the problem of rendering one line at a time. Okay, now we use this one in order to solve rendering all the lines. Okay, and we copied this code, modified it a little in order to solve rendering all the lines in reverse. So you can see that although this shape is kind of complex to render, we were able to solve the problem because we split the problem into smaller parts. And this is what you do in programming all the time. You identify the bigger problems, you split them into smaller ones, you solve the smaller problems, and this will help you solve the larger ones. Okay? So maybe today wasn't that useful in terms of mathematics, but I hope it is useful in terms of, you know, helping you understand how to solve a little bit complicated problems. Okay, uh, yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.